must admit. Okay, so for this, remember, we're going to have 10 buckets. Now, one thing you can do for the buckets is you could literally create yourself 10 different queues. All of that is on this first section that I was showing you. You can literally create 10 queues and just refer to them by name. It makes your code quite a bit longer. But if you can understand that, you can get through the lab with that. Let's see, let me clear down here because that's from the prior one. Okay. All right, so if we're going to have an array of queues and work with them like that, then again, we need the queue and the linked lists, and we use those two together to create a queue. And now then for the array of queues, array list is what we're going to import. And this is another command. It gives us some more functions automatically when we're dealing with arrays. And so it's kind of nice. So this one took me a minute to get all the syntax right on this. So let's look at 9 on this. This is where I'm setting up the list that can hold 10 queues. It doesn't create the 10 queues. It creates a place to hold the 10 queues. So array list is the type. What the array list is going to be a list of, if you look at this, is a list of queues that are made out, that are designed to hold integers. So the array list doesn't just hold an integer. The array list holds a queue, and each of those queues holds an integer. So I'm going to call this array list queue array, and it will be equal to a new array list, nothing special over here. This left side is what took a little bit. Okay, now then, I'm going to create 5 of them. Now with an array list, you do not have to declare its size ahead of time. It keeps up with how big it is on its own, and it keeps up with handling the space and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to create an array of 5 of these things. Now in your bucket list, you'll need an array of 10. But it goes, you know, just put 10 there instead of 5. So a queue that holds integers, which I'm going to call queue, that's built on top of a new linked list. I'm going to take that queue and add it to my array of queues. Then I'll come back around. So that one would go in queue array sub 0. Come back around, X is 1. Create another, a brand new one, have queue point to the new one, and then add this new one to the array. So queue array sub 1 becomes this new one. We go through that for 5 times, and by the time we get to line 15, we now have an array of 5 queues. The queues can hold as many values as your machine will tolerate, and we're ready to work with this thing. So at this point, the array holds 5 empty queues, and I'm going to print the 5 empty queues. So that'll be the first thing that prints, and we'll see the rest of it here in a second. Let me go ahead and print that, or run that. Okay. Y'all can see I've got some code going here. All right, so here is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 empty queues. This is just like a couple of minutes ago when we were doing just the regular queue commands. But in this case, I've got 5 of them. And so I said for queue integer queue in queue array. I use this particular style just as a reminder that it goes to queue array, takes the first element in queue array and puts it in queue, does whatever's in this command list, then goes back around, takes the next element of queue array, puts it in queue. So essentially this goes through how many ever queues you have one at a time. You can use the same style on printing out the values that are in the queues. You don't have to know how many values are in the queue, you just print it till it's done. Okay, so I've got my 5 empty queues, and now what I want to do, I need to generate 2 different random numbers for this exercise. Bucket list, you don't need to do that. You just need to generate 25 random numbers. Okay, but here's how I'm doing this thing. I need to generate a random integer, and I need to generate which queue it will be added to, and my queue subscripts are 0 through 4. I have 5 queues subscripted 0 through 4. Okay, so here's how I did it. Math random times 100, truncate it, and then the queue math random times 5, and truncate it. So my values for which Q are 0 through 4. My values for R value are 0 to 99. Now, for your bucket, QList bucket lab, you're going to need to work with this math random and figure it out so that you're generating values between 1,000 and 999. Shouldn't be too hard, I hope. Anyway, and this math random, you won't need it because which bucket it goes in will depend upon the digits that are in the number. Okay. But anyway, this is what I've got on mine. And so when it runs, sorry, I scrolled the wrong screen. When it runs, notice I've got it set up here to run 100 numbers. And on those 100 numbers, it'll be a random number into a random bucket. So how did I get that random number into a random bucket? You don't really have subscripts with array list. If you know what, I can't even think of the name of it now. There are other things you can use, but I was trying to find what would be the simplest for the lab that's coming up. And this is what happens, okay? I start off with just set up an integer W so it can hold which bucket, okay? Then, so for every Q in the array, here's what happens. I start off with the bucket 0, okay? Well, which Q is either going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4? So I check, does which Q happen to be 0? If so, then that's the one where the value goes. If not, add 1 to W, come back around. Okay. Does which Q happen to be 0? Oh, no, 1 at this point. If it is, do that again. All right, so you generate one number, one bucket. You assume bucket 0. You go through each of the Qs, checking to see if my W, which I'm manually handling, to see if it matches the Q that it belongs in. And if it is, then it offers it to that Q. Now, this is not efficient coding at all, okay? This is not efficient coding because what I'm doing, no matter what the bucket was that selected, I have to check all 5 buckets each time for this code to work. So essentially, you know, if it said, okay, which Q is going to be Q3? Well, it starts W off at 0. Is W equal to 3? No. Okay, add 1 to W. Is W is 3 equal to 1? No. Okay, add 1 to W. And it just does that all the way through. So it works, but it's not efficient. Let's make these 3-digit numbers. Here, my random number generator right here to make sure they are 3-digit numbers only. Okay, now that means I could have up to 999, but I cannot have less than 100. Okay, so I'm going to change this to 1,000. That will give me 0 to 999. Somehow I have to clip out that bottom 100 out of that. 0 to 99, I'm not accepting because I'm wanting 3-digit numbers in this. So I'll say while rval happens to be less than 100, then I'm going to do this one line, this again. And so what it does, this will probably bias my selection just a little bit, but that's really not what we're worried about here. What we are worried about is being able to do a bucket sort. So if I will just make this one change that I've made right here, while rval is less than 100, well, that's my 0 to 99. Well, toss that, go get another number. What if I get 75? Well, toss it, go get another number, and keep going until you get something that's at least 100. And by the way, I've got this set up here. The cap on it is 999. Now, I need 25 of these things. All right, so let me do that part for us. Okay, now everybody understand I'm modifying this code now to be closer to the bucket array. Okay, so first thing we need to do is to get 25 random numbers in this size. Okay, now the one I did was just illustrating how to work with an array of cues. Okay, so I've got to make a few modifications here, such as all of this needs to occur before I even start trying to go through the buckets. I need to get all my numbers out there. Okay, so R value int math.random times so and so blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I need an array to hold all of this good stuff. So I'll come up here. I've got to modify all my comments. I'll worry about that comments in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to say int array, wait. Int, got to get the right syntax on this. Array 25 long, which I'll call vals for values, is equal to a new int array. I don't think I need the open and close right there. Okay. Didn't like that there. Does it need it on the other side? Y'all feel free to help me with my syntax. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay, so that's where all my values are going to go. So now I'm going to go get my code, which figures values, and put them in there. Okay, so I'm fixing to just really wreck my code all to pieces here. Okay, so that much right there, and I'll just cut that out. Okay, I'm going to put right underneath here. Okay, so now then I need 25. So that'll run X from 0 to 24 while I go get a random value. And if it's maximum 999, if it's less than 100, go try again until I get one that's right in there. And then I'm going to say, okay, vals sub X is going to equal this R val, this random value. And if I'll stop my for loop at that point, that gives me 25 random 3-digit numbers. I'm letting that sit for a minute, making sure you're comfortable with that. These are the numbers that I will be working with. Okay, now, see all the mistakes that are happening below because I messed my code around. Okay, well, I'm fixed to put a stop to that. I'm just going to comment everything else out till I need it. I need that one too. Okay. And if I run this, I'll get nothing output because I didn't ask it to print anything. Yep, it ran. Okay, so far it ran successfully. All right, now then, I would like to see what those random values are. Well, when I was printing my array list and my cues and all that kind of stuff, all I had to do was say println and the name of it. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and try that with this out, control space, and I'm just going to try to print out vowels. Okay, now when I run this thing, excuse me, so that command doesn't work on plain little integer arrays. You know, we've talked about this before. That gives you its hash code. It doesn't give you the values that are in it. So queues in Java are set up to be nice so that when I say print the queue, it does print the values. In arrays, so we've got to do that on our own. So I'm going to come in here and say for, I'm going to use that style I was showing. Well, I don't have to. I know there's exactly 25. So X equals 0, semicolon, X less than 25, semicolon, X plus plus.
X plus 0.
Oh, thank you. And I've got to put an int in front of that too, because that X was only defined from that semicolon within that group right there. So it no longer exists. So I've got to say int X, X less than 25. Okay. Then I'll come down here and that's where I want to print something. Okay, but that's obviously not going to work. So I don't know. I have to decide what do I want the numbers to look like. 25 across the screen. I think that'll fit okay. Okay. So I'm going to do vals sub X plus a comma and a space. Okay. Oh, gotta get the right brackets. All right, so now if I run that, it's going to give me all 25 numbers across with the problem of there being a comma space after the last one. But let's get that far. Sugar. Not print and drop down a line, just print. Try again. Okay, now if I look across on this, see my last number that I have out there has a comma space after that, and I do not want that. Plus, since this is just going to be one line of code and I have more, I need to make sure I drop down after this line is complete. So the way I'm going to deal with that problem is come up here and do X less than 24. So that'll give me all the way through 768. And then I still need to print the 321, but I do not need to print the comma, and I do need to drop down a line. So I'm just going to print out vals sub 25. And I can code like this since I know exactly how many values are there. Ah, crapola. Oh. The last one subscript is not 25, it's 24. And so I need to drop this down. No, this one I think was right, because that'll stop at 23. And then this will be 24. Okay, so let's see if it printed like it was supposed to. Yeah, and then stops. Notice every time I'm running this, I'm getting different variables. That's the whole idea. It's random each time. Okay, so there's my 25 random 3-digit numbers ready to be sorted. Okay, now again, I'm going to ignore everything down here and pull up code as I need it. Okay, so right here, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to sort this. So that would probably be a good heading to put right here. Sysout, control space, quote, values before sorting, colon. Okay, so I'll know what that is. All right, so I have printed out my 25 random values. Now, for the bucket sort to work, I know I'm going to have to put stuff in the buckets 3 times. And I know it's exactly 3 times. So I'm going to say for int x equals 0, semicolon, x less than 3, semicolon, x plus plus. Okay, so whatever I do, I'm going to do 3 times. So what am I going to do? Well, I'll just put my comments in so I can keep up with it. I'm going to say put numbers in buckets based on digit value in position. I can't remember. Okay, then pull values out of queue and place back in vals. So this is the thing. Once I get all of my 25 numbers in their buckets, as I start pulling them out, the first number from the bucket will become my first value in my array of numbers. The second value that comes out of a bucket becomes my second number in the array of values. Okay, then once I have done that 3 times, then I need to print sorted values. Okay, so I need to put the numbers in buckets based on digit value. How many buckets did I ever wind up creating? Where is it? Oh, it's in here. Okay, time to make some buckets. So, well, I'll leave that like that. This program work, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it anymore. So I'm going to come through this, and I now need 10 buckets. So I'll take that code and start putting it in right here. Well, I need the buckets to only be created one time. I don't need the buckets to be created 3 times. So let me create the buckets here. Okay, I'm going to change this to X less than 10. There's still 10 digits in base 10. Each location can hold 10 different things. So I need 10 of those. And so at this point, I will now have 10 empty queues. Okay. So I created my values to sort, and I believe I'll comment my code a little bit now. / create an array of 25 3-digit values to be sorted. Okay, and that will probably read better if I put a dash in between. Okay, so I'm going to create 25 3-digit values to be sorted. Okay, and I've got a comment there that's good enough. Okay, now then, so at this point, I have create the 10 buckets for the Radix sort. Okay, at this point, the array holds 10 empty buckets. Now then, I've got my values to be sorted. I have my values, I've got my 10 buckets to use to sort them with. So at this point, I'll do begin sort. Now I can use 3 here because that I limited it to only 3 digits. That same thing I did for you in your bucket lab is that I limited it to only 4-digit numbers. So you can use those exact numbers in here. It makes coding just a little bit easier. Okay, so now then I have to put the numbers in buckets based on a digit value. Okay, so to do that, I need to determine digit value. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's see, did it put them in the right place? The zeros wound up in the 0, the 1 round up in the 1, 2s are in 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. Apparently we had no 7s, 8s, and 9s. So yes, it did go through and drop them into the correct buckets. Okay, so now then what I need to do is take all of the values out of these buckets one at a time. 410 needs to go in that spot. 240 needs to go in that spot. 300 needs to go in that spot. 761, so that's what I need to do next. And where did I have that? Place in bucket determined by D. Okay, now then, I'm doing this 3 times, so it will belong here. At this point, I need to pull values from buckets and place in vals array. Okay, I have 10 buckets, so I need to do a loop 10 times. I have X I'm using up there. I could reuse Y just to make sure I don't screw up on this, which I have a tendency to do. I'm going to use Z for int Z equals 0 semicolon Z less than 10, because there's 10 buckets. I get all my keystrokes in here. Okay, z less than 10, semicolon z plus plus. Let's see. More beverage is required. Okay. All right. So I want to remove from the bucket. Okay, I'm in my first bucket here. All right. So I need to say out of Q0, please remove and give to me. And I want that to go into X. Yeah, this will work. All right, so I need another index, I'm afraid. I want to make sure. What did I use? 20, Y up here was for each individual place in vowels. Let me do it. That'll make sense to use. Okay, so I'm going to say Y equals 0. And I'm going to have to handle this manually. Okay, I didn't like that. Oh, because it was only defined up in that range. Okay, so now Y is equal to 0. For Q in Q array, and I've got to look up my syntax on this. Here it is right here, Q integer for this. Go through each Q one at a time. I wish I got the parentheses to go with it. Okay, so for each Q, I want you to do the following. For every value in your Q. So for int, okay, I've used vowels, val, and v. Where did I use v? What was v being used for? Oh, that was in there. So it has been, it's available again. Int v, no, yeah. I want to use this same one. How many ever you've got in there. Int v in EQ. Okay, just a second, let me read this for you. Go through my list of 10 Qs that are in the Q array. Take the first Q in the array and drop it into Q. Now, while I have that Q, go through that Q for every value in that Q, and I want to take each value one at a time and place it back into vowels in the Y position. So I'm going to say, well, move out of the way. At this point on line 60, I am in either the first array or the second or the third or the fourth of the 10 arrays, either the 0th, 1st, 2th, 3rd, yeah, all that. Okay, so I'm in one of the arrays. Now, within that array, I'm working through the values that are in it. Like in the 0 array, it has 3 values in it. Well, the first time through, it'll pull up 410 and put that in V. What do I want to do with 410? I want to place 410 in vowels sub Y, because that's the one that's telling me where I am in my 25 values going across there. Okay, and val sub Y is going to be equal to V. Then I'm going to add 1 to Y. Okay, and for those of you that are into it, I could have just simply put the plus plus there, and it would be the same thing as these two lines. Okay, so in the first Q to start with, Q0, take the first element and drop it into val sub Y, add 1 to Y plus plus. Get the next element, which is value 240, put it into V. We'll take V and put it into val sub 1, add 1 to Y, come back around. The next V is 300, so take 300 and put it into val sub 3. Okay, well, I did that for all the elements in that Q, so I have completed this, and I come back up and it says, give me the next Q, and that would be the one that's got 761 and 411 in it. And it says, okay, for each value in the Q, now notice I have not reset Y, I'm letting it run. So one Q at a time, it will take one value at a time, put it into vowels, taking the place of the original order. And that should get me all 25 values out of there. Well, I know it put them in here correctly, so I'm going to change what I'm printing then. I think. I want to make sure this segment of code works is what I'm after. And Z, that's from buckets in place. Okay, now why do I do this 10 times? Have I duplicated saying 10 times by doing this? I may have. Because this, what I was thinking was I was going to use the Z to say which one, but you don't use that with when you're using this type of for. Okay, so let me take that back out. Now, I warned y'all I'm thinking when I'm doing this, and that's a dangerous thing. Okay, now then, so when I get through with this, I can pull all those back over again. That closes that one. And that closes that one. Yeah, these little guys are one indent too far over. Okay. All right. So what I would like to know now is my array, my vowels, okay? Okay, so where did I print vowels to start with? Pull back it, bucket from, where was that? That was way up here someplace. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to copy this because I want to get this same kind of printout, but I want to see what it looks like now after I've gone through one loop. I still have only gone through one loop. So I'm copying that, coming down to, here's my new Q values. And right here, I want to see what my new Q looks like. And this will say values after one pass. Okay, and that'll print out the 25 values, and hopefully it will match what we've got going on here. I don't see any mistakes. Let's see if it works. Well, it almost worked. Oh, that's right. We get new values each time. And I already had some of those values. Okay, so the first time through, I've got all of my right digits of zeros together, right digits of one together, twos together, and I'm looking at the last digit in this. The threes are together. Apparently there were no fours, there was 1, 5, sixes are together. Sevens are together, eights, and nines should be the last one, and that's it. Okay, yeah, that worked. Okay, so now if I will do this putting into buckets thing again, but looking at the middle value, okay, well then this will happen again, we'll be almost there. And if I do it a third time, looking at the leftmost value, when we print it out, they'll be in order. Okay, so let's go see now. I have that one line I have to modify for when it goes through again and again and again, right here. Okay, now this is the first time through of 3 in the variable that's telling me which time I'm going through is X, and it goes X equals 0. It will eventually be 0, 1, and 2. So when I did this one, that gave me the digit I wanted for the first one. Now, what would I put here for the second one? I'm just going to put it right underneath here to try to figure it out. D would be equal to V modulo. What if I do 100? Well, that would give me, looking at the values I had this last time, okay, so I'm trying to get to the 9. If I modulo by 100, that'll give me 96. And if I modulo that by 10, If I take and modulo that by 10, that value gives me 96, and take that and modulo by 10. Now this isn't gonna, I'm gotta make some changes. I'm still just thinking here. Okay, this is for second round. Okay, then third round, D would be equal to, if I just took value and did integer division of 100, but I'm trying to find something with a pattern to it so I don't have to write this stupid code 3 times. I can use this for loop and just loop through it 3 times. So I have to find some way of doing these 3 lines. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I want those 3 lines in a formula based off of X being 0, 1, and 2.